Hey everybody, welcome to the School of Social Value. I am your host, Alan, your professor for the day. And today we're continuing to talk about contentment in entrepreneurship, and we are actually discussing how we can become superheroes. First and foremost, I have to continue to dichotomize where we set our hearts and what it is we're looking to accomplish and capture in order to become happy. And if you think it is that you want to be a millionaire, a billionaire, super successful person, and you want to attain that wealth at any cost whatsoever, then I got news for you. That is essentially the same paradigm as all of the evildoers in every comic book that's ever been written. They seek to become wealthy at the expense of others. They don't care about hurting other people because for them, it's about their own personal kingdom, right? What is the difference? The difference is a hero. What does the hero do? In every single story that's out there, the hero sacrifices. That's what the hero's journey is all about. It means at whatever point Superman loses his power, someone shoots the gun, and even though Superman is not going to be able to deflect that bullet, he jumps in front of the person, sacrifices his own life. We all shed tears and we go, that is secretly what I want from my own life and what I want deep inside my heart. And that is the opportunity that is before us today, because it is through contentment that we find the ability to sacrifice and to share beyond our own needs. The power, the collective power of our sharing will save the world. It will provide the stability and the hope and the required necessities that the people who are struggling and suffering and the animals and nature and all of creation, it's going to provide for all of them when we start thinking about how we don't need much, not to be happy, not to be full, right? And so the opportunity for us is to say, you know what, I know I'm going to cap my net worth at this. Let's just say it's $10 million of personal net worth, which means if in my bones I've got the ability to potentially produce billions of dollars of wealth through entrepreneurship, then everything beyond that $10 million is impact. It is saving grace. It is what we are looking for when it comes to the sacrifice we've been prepared to make in order to embody the hero's journey here in our life. And so, I think a lot about that. When I was growing up, and even to this day, I was a fan of a series called Dragon Ball. It's an anime, it's a Japanese kind of comic thing. And the main difference between that story and the story you find with like Superman and Spider-Man is every season, every saga in the Dragon Ball series, essentially there's growth that takes place. And the way in the Dragon Ball world that's measured is through their power levels. So these characters would train, it's kind of like, they would train, they would fight, and it would make them stronger, and then there would be a new foe that would enter, and they wouldn't be quite strong enough to conquer that foe, but then they would train again, and then they would become strong enough to fight them. And then they would defeat them. But then, 5 years later, after Earth was in peace again, a new foe would present itself, and the same thing would happen in every series. Literally, that happened like 7 times. That's just the entire narrative of the Dragon Ball series. The cool thing about that, for me, is that I tried to imitate that because, I've always wanted to be a superhero, and I was trying to work out in high school, and I was getting stronger and stronger and stronger to a point where I was weighing 135 pounds and benching 225 pounds, but then I couldn't increase my strength anymore. There was a plateau, there was a peak to my ability to get stronger. And by the way, that's true for all things in nature. If you plant a particular type of tree, and it's growing, there's going to come a point in time where it no longer grows. It's not going to extend to the heavens, right? It stops growing, and it just exists to sustain itself, to produce its fruit, and to function in nature. And so when I look at nature, it's almost impossible to embody that same constant growth that I loved so much about Dragon Ball. And That's what I love about this particular nature of being a superhero. Instead of being plateaued at 225 pounds, in this example, there's no limit to the amount of strength that we can obtain, because it's not about the physical limitations of nature. Rather, when you're talking about economics, it's very, very unnatural, which is the very reason why you have this perpetuitous growth in perpetuity, and the desire to acquire wealth in perpetuity, right? If it was like the natural world, those businesses that grow to some point would stop, and that would be okay. But because investors invest at the tail end of a company's growth, they require it to grow even more. And that is not sustainable, it's not natural, but it's something we can leverage as we try to amass our own collective action, and we grow in our collective power. And so what I would like to see is seeing the same stages of growth as you and I participate in FruitCraft's growth and in the School of Social Value's mission to share all of FruitCraft's profits in order to save the world. And that happens like this. I'm going to pull it up. But phase one, it's San Diego. Of course it's San Diego, right? That's where we live. But the idea for me is all I really need is 3,000 of us in San Diego to come together, to take the social value pledge, to redirect our consumption dollars, our investment dollars, and our labor in order to affect sizable change here in San Diego. If we're gonna get that 3,000 person acquisition, we will end up with $50 million in revenue in a 3-year horizon here in San Diego, and that will result in tons of social value we create locally. But that's not enough, because that's not going to save the world. $50 million is really a drop in the bucket. It is the next phases that are important. And so what we plan on doing is we plan on expanding into Southern California. In the case of the most populated metro areas, Orange County and Los Angeles are the other two besides San Diego. And essentially what we would intend on doing is opening up another 20 tasting rooms and storefronts and venues. Very much so the way a franchise does it. That is the ask here. We're talking about a social value franchise system. One where we've got a product and an experience that has already been established. It is the FruitCraft experience. And we can take that and very quickly, as consumers, investors, and laborers, scale it. And that is the beautiful part. If investors, let's say there's 5 people, each putting in $100,000 to start a social value franchise, a FruitCraft concept, well, guess what? They're going to see a return on investment. Hopefully we'll be able to partner them with onboarded talent that is ready to start fermenting and ready to start calling wedding couples on getting them to book with us. And we'll have a whole set of systems that goes to support these franchise concepts. But the scale of it is what's important. So let's go from 5 storefronts in San Diego to another 20 throughout Southern California. Let's take that and add another 75 in phase 3. That's actually not something we have never seen before. It's happened all the time with franchises like Starbucks, like McDonald's, like these other brands that are household names. And so that is why I'm continuing to ask for your involvement and your economic participation, keeping in mind I will not benefit the way most founders normally do. The next phase beyond 5 tasting rooms here in San Diego and 20 extra in Southern California, and then 75 extra throughout the state of California, whether that's Riverside, Sacramento, or San Francisco, is to take these concepts well beyond the California market, into the Northwest, into the South, into the East, into the North. And we do that in the biggest metro areas. And in that sense, phase 4 is let's launch 150 of these storefronts so that we can continue to build that mass and create such power in our collective action. And that's still not done because there are many, many other marketplaces throughout the country. And 2 more phases, essentially we would end up with nationwide distribution, which if for some reason this message fell on the ears of 3 million supporters of Bernie Sanders or progressives or people who wanted to take their activism in the political sphere and bring it into the economic sphere, then instantly we could end up with this level of revenue, we can end up with a path to opening hundreds of tasting rooms in an 18-month horizon. All of these things can be done if we take the opportunity that is in front of us and we agree to run this company as a community. I do not want to make every decision. I will definitely not be benefiting from my decision making in the same way that I otherwise would be. And so I'm extending what would normally be my autocratic kingship style approach to entrepreneurship, and I'm saying let's run it democratically. Let's let the best ideas win, and let's have a team building effort where it's not just one person running things, but it's all of us. And we do it so passionately and with such a clear product and experience that we build to billions of dollars in revenue nationwide in a very short period of time. It realistically will probably take 10 years to go through each of those phases of expansion, but that depends on how viral and how much need, how viral this video will go or how much need we meet. There's a ton of angst right now in the market, and who knows, we might be able to turn this whole country around, not based on the decisions of these political actors in Congress and the Senate and the President, but based on our own agency as consumers, investors, and laborers, which dovetails well into the next video on contentment. In the next video, we are going to be going into depth about the decisions our leaders have made in the coronavirus packages, how it hasn't really helped those of us on the ground, and how it's greatly enriched those who are already extremely wealthy. And until the next video, remember to do good and to share with others. Cheers.